All right, so we are here today to talk about Lilith and what Lilith means for you. You might have heard about Black Moon Lilith, but today we're going to dive deep with Lumi about Lilith through the houses, the story of Lilith, and why it is so important to access this power within your chart, where your wildness is, your fierceness, your freedom, and to ultimately process Lilith energy in a way that is constructive and healthy versus destructive. So sometimes a little destruction is important in order for new creation. Today, I have Lumi here, an expert on Lilith, and she is also in our wonderful RGA network. She's a fantastic astrologer and conducts readings involving Lilith as well, which you can book on the link below. Lumi, I'll let you take it away from here.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be talking to you about Lilith today. She's all in correspondence to how you can tap into your wild and primal nature. Basically, like your most inner dark part of yourself. Now, not so dark where you're wallowing into the darkness forever, but really it's that part of us in which we don't want others to see, but it can be triggered in situations by external influences. So I'm going to talk to you about how you can also manifest Lilith in your birth chart, where you can seek out the wild and untamed nature, and how you can best harness this energy for the best productivity possible. Now, if you don't know where your Lilith is, this is the symbol that you have to look out for in your birth chart. I'm going to share the screen right now. And it's so beautiful too. Like, it's just like amazing, like how the moon is like truly in connection to, it's like the dark side of the moon, basically. It's the point in space in which you do not see the moon from your vantage point from where you're living. That is how you can locate the Black Moon Lilith, and astronomically, that's how it is. Now, I would love to talk to you also about how Lilith is in my life, how it played out in my life, since I am a Lilith conjunct ascendant. She's exactly on my ascendant. So in my life, I was like the subordinate. I was pushed down constantly from like basically speaking up as to what I wanted to achieve in my life. Now, when I was pushed down, I basically rose up and decided to claim my own independence. And that is how I help women in my astrology practice. I help them gain the inspiration needed to help them push back when life pushes them down, and how to best own their power and authority in situations. So let's dive into how Lilith plays out in the birth chart in the houses. Now, to start, before I get into that, we want to talk a little bit about the history of Lilith, just a little bit. Lilith, if you don't know already, in the biblical texts, she was the first woman created alongside Adam. Now, what happened was when Adam wanted her to become very submissive, she decided not to be submissive to him. She's like, we are equal partners. Adam refused to have her rise above him or basically name her worth. So that's when she decided to leave, because he did not really want to be her equal partner. And in this case, she was alienated from the Garden of Eden, and she lived out the rest of her days in exile. And she created quite a bit of interesting, she basically like is the rebel of heaven. And in the alienation, that's when she decided to live on her own for the rest of her days. So in other words, the rebellious nature that we hold inside ourselves, we might feel alone at times, but there is a chance for you to start transmuting that energy into some kind of creativity. Now, it is a part of ourselves in which we have to raise our voices, stand our ground involving boundaries, and as well as the resentment we all carry if these matters are not recognized within ourselves. So now in our birth charts, for men, Lilith is the woman that he desires, yet he fears. She's the untouchable, untamable, but he's really enamored by her, you know, but it's the woman that he oftentimes shrink away. So that's how Lilith does play in the man's birth chart. Whereas in a woman's birth chart, this is the part of ourselves in which we have the unspoken feminine rage. And it's the area in which we have to let out resentments in the birth chart. And it also awakens our ability to, become courageous in our life, also become, have a sense of sovereignty and even sexual liberation too. So now let's dive in deep into how Lilith does play out in the birth chart. And by the way, it's somewhat generational since Lilith does stay in the sign for about 9 months. So keep in mind that no two people in your age group will have the same Lilith. So it's really important to start looking up, or just to look up your birth chart and to see where Lilith is and what sign it's in. And you can go on astro.com and locate that. So now, Lilith in, let's start in the first house. Lilith in the first house manifests as independent. You are true, you're wild, you're free. It's all about you owning your power. And at times in the beginning of your life, you probably were misunderstood. And you might have like secretly wanted to rebel, but sometimes people, if you do let people push down on you and really squanders with your power, that's usually an indicator that you have to rise above and become very independent in your process to life. And you have to become more of a leader in the situation that you're in. So oftentimes these people have to, own the space around them. And in this case too, you might even fear expressing your true self if you don't own that space. So that's why when Lilith does manifest in specific areas of the chart, particularly in the first house, the more you let others, because the first house is the house of self, the more you let others corner you, the more embedded you become into your sacred, basically your rage, and you might become really cornered, and you may not feel as free in your expression here. So at times too, with the Lilith in the first house, you might have felt really unloved. It was a little hard for you to express your emotions, or perhaps you weren't feeling understood by your parents. And it could lead to areas in your life where you may not feel beautiful in yourself. Body dysmorphia might play out. And this is the time where you have to really basically like tap into your own self-love and embrace that shadow part of yourself, and just know that you are really beautiful. And as you rise up and claim your authority, that's when the beauty does truly shine within you, and as well as other people's responses to that energy too. So that's Lilith in the first house for you. Now, when we move on to Lilith in the second house, this is the area in your life in which you're going to be working with your self-worth. What do you want to do with your life? What kind of building tool are you going to have in your life too? You are so driven to work towards financial freedom. Of course, you could work for other people, but really you own the space when it comes to starting to like build up your life. You can't let the others, or you can't let, like, for instance, if you're in a partnership, you cannot let others tell you what to do in terms of like your own financial, financial independence, or telling you what to do when it comes to you working. Not at all. Like, in fact, you're a natural born leader in the realm of claiming your finances, and you can't let the other control the finances. So, but you love beautiful things. That's the thing. And I think it's really important for you to surround yourself by beautiful things. Yes, not overly, not at all, but you have to have really good quality items around you and be in a space where you can claim beauty in luxury. And that's what actually makes you feel secure in this life, but you have to build it yourself. So that is the Lilith in the second house and how it plays out for you. Now, as we move on to Lilith in the third house, this is the realm of how we think, how we process our ideas. So Lilith in this embodiment is rebellious. You're rebelliously thinking, like you're going against the norms as to what is considered conformity. And you may have had confrontations with siblings. Maybe there's a little bit of a rivalry in the space where you were living with your siblings, if you had any siblings, or maybe even like extended family. So you may have struggled with speaking in the beginning part of your life. Maybe you had intense thoughts. You were really highly sensitive, like really sensitive person, and in fact, intuitive. So that's why it may have led to some rivalry along the lines, because you're able to read their thoughts or maybe read their body language pretty easily, because you have a really good sense of sensing things. You're also really influential the way you speak. It's very seductive, very sensual. And it could be really good if you start putting it into some kind of artful form, like writing and or speaking. So own that space of speaking through your own authentic self, and let the words roll through you, and like put it into some kind of writing modality, and you can make such an impact to society in some way. So that is Lilith in the 3rd house. Lilith in the 4th house. So you were probably in a home environment that didn't feel really safe for you. You probably weren't nurtured, or you didn't feel nurtured in your space. And in this lifetime, you're meant to be on the quest to build up your own sense of emotional security. Sometimes though, if you don't have a healthy kind of outlook on things when it involves with the family, you may be you may be in fear of building a family, or you may be resistant in starting a family. These natives, or you may even settle down later in life more than usual, like what the conformist society expects of you. But this does give a strong sense of understanding as to you living with people who are meant to honor your space as to who you are. So that's why it's really important for you to not just settle just for the sake of other people's expectations of you. And there is a chance that one of your parents might have had the Lilith kind of archetype too, the Lilith kind of traits. So the thing is, try not to let your parents override your happiness or the energy of their unresolved traumas that they've endured, from when they were living. The pain might have been passed down to you. So that's probably one of the key reasons as to why you're resistant to have your own set of roots and establish that. So I'd say the best course, or one of the best courses as to what you can do to heal through this, is to actually review your matriarchal family line. And when you start healing that part of you, and it can be patriarchal family line as well, but mainly the matriarchal line is the key as to how you could make those breakthroughs for yourself. It could build new paths of fulfillment when you do so. And that is Lilith in the 4th house. So Lilith in the 5th house. This embodiment is a little difficult because you may felt like no matter what, with whatever joyful experience that you were in, you probably didn't feel really happy in that moment, especially at a young age. You probably felt really heavy, and you wanted to feel adored, yes, but at times whenever you were in that joy, there was some kind of like a condition, an attachment to that joy. In other words, you didn't really have the experience to embrace your own creativity. It was kind of withheld from you. And the only way, or one of the ways in which you could heal that part of you, is to actually go back into your childhood phase and relive those experiences as to what has been taken away from you. So if you haven't indulged in any kind of creative endeavor, perhaps this is the time now to start going to review as to what you can do to help satiate that part of you that's been felt in void. So there's also times that, even the partnerships, because the 5th house is the house of love and true love and values, and even our creative expression. So, your partners may be misaligned with you. And there's a chance that you may even look for partners that will satiate that void and space that you are lacking, but really you have to find it within yourself as a Lilith of the 5th house. So create the path to love yourself and relive your childhood memories by indulging all that was denied from you. And that's a way that you can satiate that part of you. Now we move on to Lilith in the 6th house. So this has something to do with the daily life, as well as your working life, your coworkers, and you may feel a little inadequate in the work. The reason why I'm saying that is because you may not feel like Lilith, like the Lilith kind of energy in the work life. There could be there could be people in your area, people in your space, I should say, in your work, that take on the Lilith qualities. So the reason why that is because you have to step into that role of becoming more of the rebellious one. I'm not saying rebellious where like you're, you know, confronting everybody left and right, not at all, but it's just like, you have to be your own leader. Be your own leader. Start initiating things when something is not in alignment with you. When it comes to the workplace, you have to stand your ground and make your needs known. That's the way in which you could tap into the Lilith expression with Lilith in the 6th house. Now, I'd say you probably, like, there is a chance that you might even step into starting your own thing, like if you do have Lilith in the 6th house. I'm not saying that you have to, but that's a part of you that is craving to be free from the confines of the daily 9 to 5. These people are very entrepreneurial in their kind of energy when you do have Lilith in the 6th house. So you might be inspired to start something new from hearing this, or start standing around and make your needs known. That's Lilith in the 6th house. We move on to Lilith in the 7th. It could be a little difficult, this placement, because Lilith desires to be in a relationship, but she may fear marriage, or you may fear marriage. And, you know, there is a sense of like wanting to be settled with a partner, but there's a fear of not being independent in the partnership. So you may take time to settle down. It's very similar to Lilith in the 5th house, but Lilith in the 7th house, this is the area in which you are in a partnership and you're solid, but really there's a kind of like detached space in which you're feeling in the partnership. So I would say the best course of action in terms of dealing with this is to have a partnership where the partner is honoring your autonomy. You may need periods of separation. And I'm not saying separated like you're not in a relationship anymore, not at all. In fact, it could be in a relationship where you are taking a break, like taking a break for like a couple of weeks on end, like taking mini vacations from each other. And that would be a way in which you could feel that freedom and space in the relationship. And then that can actually help you feel more solid in the relationship because you have that space to express yourself freely. And the thing about also Lilith in the 7th house and what you need to heal from is that you may have been, or you may have witnessed a hostile domestic environment. This doesn't apply to everybody, but some people may see the parents in some kind of critical, intense interchange, like the parents. So that may play out to you attracting those types of relationships. So that's why it's really important for you to start establishing this space of autonomy in partnerships. And not to say you're not meant to be in a relationship, not at all, but you are meant to be in a relationship in which you honor yourself as to who you are and you honor the partner as to who they are. So that's why it's really important for you to establish the boundaries in your life and boundaries as well as in your partnerships, just to ensure that you feel free and honored in your own space and as well as for the partner. So that is Lilith in the 7th house. As we move on to Lilith in the 8th house, you can easily see the darker sides of life. Power lies in your seduction. So the 8th house is the area in the chart in which we view our resources, we review sex, we review the undercurrents of life, that hidden part of ourselves that we do not want other people to see. It's like the closet in our home, you know? So with Lilith embodying in that space, you really do see the undercurrents as to the uncomfortable parts of society or the uncomfortable parts of your inner self. And you're really, really powerful when it comes to intuition. Connecting intimately though with partners. So 7th house is partnership, while the 8th house is the aftermath of the partnership here. So this is the hidden realms of within your home life and with the partner here. So you may be in a relationship or may not be, but there's a chance that you may have a hard time really trusting in the intimacy that you've developed with the partner, or even redefining your own sense of intimate nature within yourself. Like, how comfortable are you with your own vulnerability here? That's the question that has to be registering through you. And physical intimacy is important, yes, but you have to connect more with the energetics of life here in order to relieve the pressure of that Lilith connection in the 8th house. So I would say if you are in a partnership, start measuring the energy as to the partner. Measure basically like how you are intimately connecting with each other in the energetic sense as opposed to the physical sense. And that's when you're going to start feeling things more deeply. That's how it works with Lilith in this expression here. And if you're not in a relationship, you have to deepen the connection within yourself. So you probably could do some tantra, maybe some tantra yoga or tantra sacred sexuality practices, those kind of things, just so you could relieve the pressure of those intensities that you hold inside and start building up the peace within yourself here. And that is Lilith in the 8th house for you. So now with Lilith in the 9th house, belief systems, oh my gosh, you are really rebellious when it comes to philosophical wisdoms. You question the norm, or you question what's been written. Perhaps you always have like a scientific view as to what is truth for you. There's a chance that you may go through that route, or you may fall into the route of really getting involved with intense religions and get lost into the religions. So there needs to be a bit of a balance here, because you go through two extremes here. It's either you're detached from belief systems of life, or you're really embedded into the belief systems of others. So you have to build up this sense of self, of what you're truly aligning with energetically here. So it's good to question, yes, but not totally become narrow-minded into the ideas of what other people can offer for you. So try to become more open-minded in your process to things with Lilith in the 9th house. And you are very persuasive also. Like if ever you wanted to get involved with radio or podcast, or like maybe write something, your words are very, very powerful, and people actually will be compelled by you. So I would say if you're into that, like if you are drawn to that realm of life, into writing or publications of any way, you hold a really strong ground in that kind of realm of life. So I'd say if you work with this energy, you can make a really strong impact on the world in some way or form. You can actually heal, depending on what you've discovered along the way with your studies, with the belief systems and all those things. That could be interwoven to something really strong for humanity to benefit from. So that's Lilith in the 9th house. Now, as we move to Lilith in the 10th, oh my gosh, you are so powerful in the workplace. You do not have a tolerance for authority figures, I can tell you that. So there is a chance that you may rise up into challenging the authority of those who are above you in the workplace. So these people are oftentimes CEOs. They could be CEOs. Like there's just like, you have to have some sort of strong reign over, strong reign. I'm not saying like a dictator or anything like that, hopefully not. But I would say like a strong reign in terms of you calling the shots, because you know what looks good, or you know what will work effectively in the operations of any business or career route you're in. So you have a really good eye for seeing the trends, or perhaps like questioning like what's been working for one person. Maybe we can go a different direction and enforce better results. That's where the clash could fall into place when you do rise up into challenging your authority figure. So that's when conflict might come up. So I would say you guys are meant to be your own kind of boss, basically. You know, like it's just like if you're feeling compelled to go into that direction of life, it could be good for you. Or if you are in a career that you're happy with, perhaps you have to start initiating those discussions with your superiors about promotional opportunities, because if you're on the same realm or the same kind of position in your career, you're going to feel very disempowered when you're not rising above the ranks here. So that's the best way in terms of you dealing with that, is to actually hold conversation with your superiors, just so you are given those opportunities to rise up in the ranks. So when you do that, that's when you're going to feel more satiated, and Lilith will be tamed there in a good way. All right. So that is Lilith in the 10th house. Now, as we move on to Lilith in the 11th house, group environments. So along the lines of your friendship groups, as well as like in the networks, you may be a rebel there. You might feel alone though at times, because you think really differently among the groups. people may fear you, the group environment. So not to say you're doing that on purpose, but it's just this kind of energetic exchange that you are giving with other people. You may feel alienated, not supported in that environment. So I would say, don't just settle in the group because of what's expected of you. I would say, like, have those people, like anybody who you want to attract into your groups and your friendships, be true, like be who you are, be authentic. And those who will measure up to your, your kind of energetic level, they will more than likely honor that space in which you wish to create impact on the world in some way. And they will actually measure to you, like the frequency will match. And when you do have that tribe, that really powerful tribe in that area of any kind of aspiration that you're onto, like that you want to achieve in life, you definitely as a group, as one, could make an impact. That's for sure. And you could see through to your achievements very strongly when you have those kinds of supportive groups here. And they're, like, in a way, your soulmates. And that's what actually does create the space of peace in your embodiment as Lilith in the 11th house. So I would say just own up to your authenticity, and then things will fall into place here. And that's Lilith in the 11th. So as we, Lilith in the 12th house, this is the final house in the series here. This is the area, 12th house is the area of our subconscious realms. It's the area in which you are, like the shadow self might come up quite often. It's the accumulation of resentments that you build up throughout your life. Now, when you have Lilith in the 12th house, you probably feel like you don't want to dig so deep. You're afraid of what you're going to see. So Lilith in this embodiment, you have to really explore deeply as to what's happening within you. If you're going through a period of unsettling, like if you're feeling like disconnected to life, or kind of a bombardment of intensity, when Lilith resides in this area of your chart, you have to start digging in deep and surrendering to the whole process as to what you have to heal within that realm of life. You are such a powerful conduit of tapping into the mysteries of life, because 12th house is the house of spirit, it's the house of divine connection. Now, as you remember from what I said before with Lilith's story of Lilith and the Adam and Eve story, she was alienated, she was isolated, she was cast out of the Garden of Eden. This is the aftermath of the Garden of Eden. Like, what have you done? I'm not saying you are Lilith in that respect, but I would say you might feel like a higher power is not with you, if you are aligned with that, of course. But you do have a very strong energetic sense of the life around you if you open up to it. If you ever want to tap into that realm of existence, you're very strong in that kind of environment there. So I would say you have to remember that you are safe when you are digging in deep into subconscious healing. You're safe and you can surrender to it. You should be okay. And of course, when you're working with somebody who is a therapist or coach, spiritual coach, if you will, that's the way in which you could dig in those parts of you in which that needs the release point for you. So I think when you do connect within yourself, you establish a much stronger connection to the life around you. As I said before, the 12th house is the realm of spirit. So, when Lilith is in this area here, it creates a bit of a disconnect to the life around you, and you kind of live on autopilot. So the reason why that happens is because there's some kind of repression happening within you. So when you unpack, that's when you feel more space around you and feel more of a connection to everyone. And as you shift your frequency to that's going to open up pathways towards healing your soul and your heart. So this concludes the Lilith in the 12th house. And I feel like I loved exploring all this with you, and I hope you really I hope you really enjoyed this. And I feel like Lilith is a really powerful part in your birth chart in which you could release your inhibitions and really own your space and live more freely in your expression in life. And this concludes my Lilith in the series.
Lumi, that was magnificent. I love it. I want to ask you too, as some questions came up here. as you were going through them. I'm watching. And one is, what about transiting Lilith? So where Lilith is right now, and what does that mean? And you mentioned it stays around 9 months in a sign. So how does the transiting current Lilith affect everybody? And then I have one more question for you after that.
Sure. Lilith is currently in the sign of Leo, and it just shifted in the sign of Leo on January 8th. So what does that mean? Lilith is in Leo. So if you think about Leo, Leo is totally wild and free and creative and powerful. And for the collective, this involves us to start owning our space of creativity, becoming more challenging, like challenging ourselves into trying new things and becoming more exploring, like exploring the realms of something that we haven't dared touch. So as it's making its way for the next 9 months, this is all in correspondence to some kind of creative idea that you probably felt that you haven't really tapped into for some time. And it will go into full, and I like to say this because 9 months is like a reflection as to the child being developed, right? So it's like the full gestation is going to happen by October. So whatever idea that you wish to plant, so in this case, it has something to do with Leo energy. So with Leo, it could be a creative project. It could be maybe a romantic relationship. It can also be something involving your own inner child work. That's what you want to work on for the next 9 months. It can go through many different avenues of exploration here. So when Lilith is in Leo, this is all in relation to even our, like our own like inner child work. And like, I like to emphasize that a lot because I feel like that's the energy of Leo is really childlike and pure. And with Lilith there in combination, it's the repressed part of our childhood. So if you haven't done any dancing, or if you haven't had a singing lesson and you were denied that in the early part of your life, why not try it?
I love it. So when did Lilith enter Leo? That's interesting because I just started dancing a lot. So I'm just curious.
January 8th.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. That's when I really started dancing. Okay. Love this. So it sounds like
the
it's
trigger
letting...
was too. The trigger was also with the new moon that just passed. It was 1 degree exact with the 1 degree of Aquarius, right? New moon Aquarius. It was opposing Lilith and Leo 1 degree exact. So this one's going to be very powerful for the next 6 months into August. So something will come to full culmination by then.
Movement and dancing, letting our inner child out, our freedom. These are such powerful, cathartic ways to exercise Leo, or exercise the demons, even
the body.
To release places where we had been sublimated and held back in life, and just express it through our creativity, movement. Love it. Okay, so that is super interesting. So it's 9 months really giving full birth to Lilith and Leo until October, and then I guess we move into Lilith and Virgo. Great. So another question that came up here as you're talking is, I know you do full readings inclusive with Lilith, though I'm sure there's also meaning when Lilith is conjunct a planet. Let's say somebody has Lilith conjunct Venus or Pluto, and you could just give an example maybe of how you would talk about that too.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have, for instance, like we talked a lot about love and relationships, like those are the really sticking points when you have a Lilith placement with the 7th house and the 8th house. So for instance, if you have like a Lilith and Venus, like Lilith conjunct Venus, this is an indicator that yes, you can be in a relationship, but you have to preserve your own sense of autonomy in relationships. And there is a chance that you may attract power issues in the relationship. And not to say you're meant to be in a relationship that will be power issued forever, but really that's the issue that you have to resolve within yourself with that kind of placement here. So even if you do have sticking points in the birth chart involving Lilith or Venus placements or anything like that, as long as you have the conscious awareness, you can work through it. And that's like a Lilith and Venus conjunction. Another part we can talk about is Lilith conjunct North Node, leading into the life where you are freely expressing yourself and being comfortable in you expressing yourself freely. That's what's going to help you live up to Lilith nature. It could be a really powerful kind of influence that this person holds. And You're meant to make an impact by empowering women, or because Lilith is the nature of women. It's like the nature of the shadow expression of women. So these people might attract people in their lives in which they may have unresolved issues within themselves. They need some kind of like uplifting or empowering and some kind of sense of encouragement from you. So if you have a Lilith conjunct North Node, there's a chance that you'll make some kind of impact for society to own up to their own authenticity in that respect. Does that make sense?
Lumi, thank you so much for sharing this. This is absolutely fascinating. So I hope you all feel as inspired as I do with exploring Lilith more in your birth chart. Also, I want to mention Lumi is available for full personal chart birth readings, including Lilith transits, Lilith in the natal. It's such an important, timely part of the birth chart to look at, especially now more than ever. I think we all need to be more aware of where our Lilith is, as well as we are in this time of unshackling collectively. So Lumi, I want to thank you again. And remember, everyone who's listening, you can all see more information on Lumi in the link below in the description here. This was fantastic. Thanks so much. And I will hope to see you for another chat again soon.
I welcome that opportunity.
Thanks.